In this video, I'm going to make a rolling island cabinet for a customer. Having met with the customer and taken measurements of their space, step one was to design a cabinet that could fit all of their existing appliances, but also serve as a functional and versatile worktop. It had to be movable so that they could use it in their kitchen, but have it stored in their pantry. Note, this is not a normal project that I usually like to take on, more of a custom one-off for a friend, but let's get into it. Keeping these things in mind, here's the final design that I settled on. Feel free to pause it if you want to steal it. I knew I was going to have to mechanically fasten the butcher block countertop to the existing carcass, so I decided to use 3/4 inch plywood for the base and the sides for stability purposes. It's times like this I realized that with a larger shop, I could really use a larger outfeed table for the saw. Tearing down 4x8 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood is no joke. For the back, I'm choosing to use 1/2 inch plywood and inset into the frame to help keep the depth of the island as shallow as possible. By doing this, I'll have about 15.5 inches of usable interior space. I'm also going to use rabbet and dado joinery for this build. While this makes the setups and the overall build time longer, it's just so much stronger than using simple butt joints. This type of joinery gives me 3 surface areas for glue up instead of 1 surface area on an end grain wood like you'd have with a regular butt joint. Plus, let me point out that to accomplish this, you really just need a router to make this happen. Having a router table is a huge perk, but not necessary. I've been making cabinets with this type of joinery long before I ever had access to a router table. The table really just makes things a lot easier. I also have a stack dado blade for my saw stop, but overall setup time is just quicker using the router, but it's certainly an option if you don't have a router available. Can I tell you how much easier life is doing big glue ups with 2 people? By recruiting the help of my wonderful daughter, I probably cut my glue up time in half, and it just made it so much easier to be highly accurate. So thanks, Doodle. Note that the strength of this assembly is in the tight Bond 2 glue that I used. However, it is a good idea to secure everything with 18 gauge brad nails and clamps while the glue dries.
The next day.
A planer is not a necessary tool for this job, but it did help me make sure that my hardwood fronts were all exactly the same thickness. If you're building a cabinet, you basically have 2 options to hide the end grain of the plywood. You can use a veneer, or you can attach a hardwood face frame to the front. I like the hardwood option because I think it not only looks better, but will hold up well over time with the force of the hinges opening and closing. Now on to the doors. Can I tell you this is probably the main reason I don't like making cabinets? Making doors is super time consuming and you have little margin for error. Plus, I think it's just kind of boring. So I guess my hat's off to you cabinet makers of the world for your patience for this type of work. For this project, I'm making a shaker style cabinet door. This is more basic, but I think it's the perfect style of door to use in a build like this. To make a door, you have a rail, or the horizontal piece, and you have the stile, which is the vertical piece. The middle piece is known as the panel, and that fits into the recess, or groove in the rails and stiles. Note, this is another example of how you can make a groove for a panel using only a table saw, but man, the router table is champion here. The only important thing to remember in this otherwise straightforward process is just not to make a through cut with your stile. Here's the part of the video where you cabinet makers and professional woodworkers can get all triggered and leave me terrible comments below about how I am gluing the panels into the door. Yes, I know it's a sin to glue the panels, and Steve, wood expands and contracts, you idiot. I'm calling shenanigans. Listen, this is going to be in an interior, climate-controlled space, and the panel's already dimensionally stable. It'll be fine. And plus, you won't have that cheap, annoying movement sound when you close the door. So Mike, if you're watching this, if you ever have a problem with those doors in the next 30 years, I promise I will make you a new one for free. You won't, though. Again, feel free to let me know how I'm wrong in the comments. Negative interaction is better than no interaction, right, dearest YouTube algorithm? And it wouldn't be a rolling island cabinet without casters. I decided to use 2.5-inch casters, which gave me almost 3 inches of space beneath the cabinet, which was important because I was trying to make it tall enough to sit flush against the wall and over the existing molding in their pantry. Instead of having a typical 1/8-inch relief between the doors, one other design feature that I chose was to add a piece of hardwood on front of one of the doors to completely hide the relief space between both doors. This cuts down on dust, bugs, and I think it just looks better. Note, I pre-drilled and screwed all of my hardware before I painted. By doing this, it made the final install of the doors and the handles a whole lot easier. For the butcher block top, I found an untreated 2x4 top at Lowe's for around 120 bucks. I like untreated tops because it's less of a hassle to cut down and to sand off any scorch marks left from the saw. This is where a 3 horsepower saw stop really comes in handy. Once it was cut to size with about a 1/2-inch overhang on 3 sides, I used a combination of mineral oil and beeswax to seal it. This is about a 4-to-1 ratio of mineral oil to beeswax, and it's the same food grade finish I use on my cutting boards. It's a great finish, but you do need to give it a refresh of mineral oil once or twice a year just to make sure it stays looking nice. You can use urethane to really seal it, but remember that urethane is not food grade safe until it fully cures. Urethanes are more durable, but I wouldn't cut any food on it for at least a month to let it fully cure because it's those drying agents in the urethane that are actually toxic. Pick your poison on how you want to seal your countertops, I guess. Pun intended. With that, it's time to paint, and I'm not gonna lie, I loathe painting. If I could only just have a helper clean my brushes, I think it wouldn't be so bad. Let me know in the comments what's worse, sanding or painting. I'm honestly not sure. I used a Kills Premium Primer, which is super thick and does a great job at filling the crevices in the grain of the plywood. Over that, I used a nice enamel trim and door paint, which gave it a slick, durable top coat.
The next day.
Once the paint had a day or so to dry, it was time to install the hardware and attach the top. As I had said earlier, pre-drilling all the holes for the hardware really made this an easy step. You just want to be sure to stay organized with your hardware. I tend to keep everything in sandwich bags or bins so nothing gets lost during painting. And finally, the last step was to attach the top to the 4 L brackets I had installed before painting. With that, and a little bit of touch-up paint in some of the areas that didn't look quite perfect, I can finally say this project is complete.
Okay, so she's done. The touch-up paint just needs to dry a little bit, and then this bad boy is going to be ready for delivery. It's good to have another one in the books.
There's quite a few guys roasted. These elderly crackpot. Do we slide those?
Yep, she'll come right up. There you go. Yep. Here we go. What do you think?
Wow. Ready?
So, see how thin that is?
Uh-huh.
It's because it's basically halfway that's routed down, and so this whole back panel is inset into this wood.
So it won't pop out.
It'll never pop out. And what it does too is it provides stability and strength because it means you get a glue up on 2 sides. It's a solid piece. So. There you go, man.
Okay.
What do you think?
It looks great.
Goes right in.
I was a little worried about it if everything fitting, but
Well, that's why. Did you see it? When I saw the
measurements
pictures.
okay.
Hopefully that sits. Because the casters come forward,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, you see that?
Yeah.
See the curve?
Yeah. It's right on top of it. So
All right. Turns out I can measure. There we go.
If you've hung in here this long, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. These projects and videos are a lot of work, so I truly appreciate you giving it a watch. So as those super hip, trendy YouTubers say, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. But hey, thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.